of owning your dream homes, EJ Investment is here for you. Secure our quality bungalows with 2, 3, or 4 bedrooms, or our story buildings, 3 or 4 to 5 bedrooms at very affordable prices with flexible payment plans at our Sanyang Seaview Estate, where you can enjoy the cool breeze with modern infrastructure such as tar roads, covered drainage system, modern electrification with street lights, gated entrance with security posts, and social amenities such as gas station, shopping mall, medical clinic, park, schools, children daycare, and a lot more. Our dedicated team of professionals will keep the estate clean at all times, provide security and patrol team within the estate premises, install latest technologies such as CCTV, Wi-Fi, home network installation, solar panel, and power backup system. Also, check out for our additional home facilities and interior design service such as premium tiling, wall plaster, home landscape, fingerprint home lock, and a lot more. Visit our office at Senegambia Kololi Highway and get a free site visit tour, or contact us on 4464-838. WhatsApp us on 3259220. Or you can visit our Facebook page or Instagram on EJ Investments. EJ Investments, we are first in properties.
All right.
Honey, did you remind him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes.
But don't you know about Baluwo?
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 What is Baluwo?
Baluwo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate.
Tell me how Baluwo works.
It's very simple.
Just log on to baluwo.com and shop, or download the app on your phone. You can shop on the website or using the app to buy online basic products for your family and friends. With Baluwo, you decide what your money is spent on. Your money, your choice. Buy online products for your family and friends in the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria, or Mali. Baluwo, better than sending money.
I'd like to officially welcome you all to the Congress today. My name is Seinabu Drame. I am the Program Officer for Communications and Freedom of Expression. Thank you all for coming, and on time as well. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of our senior colleague, Mr. Cherno Jallo. Thank you, sir, for coming. On my left is Mr. Babu Kambrai. He's a board member and he's the chairman of Ethics and Disciplinary Committee at the GPU. Also present is Mr. Sekou Jammeh, our Secretary General. I'll hand over the mic to Mr. Mustafa Mbai to do the opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Seinabu. Good morning to you all, colleagues. You're welcome to this extraordinary meeting organized by the Gambia Press Union. You may be aware that it's going to be a 2-day event, and I would just like to say some little words about why we are here. I know you already know. Nonetheless, I'll just remind all of us the reasons why we gather here today, and we'll also be back tomorrow. In an unusual way, I would begin with tomorrow's event. So, you may be aware that sometime this year, in August this year, as a board member of the Gambia Press Union, the vice president, to be more specific, the former vice president Mustafa Kiedabo, resigned from his post. And in line with the Gambia Press Union Constitution, that position should be filled, and a timeline was given for that. Now, Mustafa's resignation, of course, was as a result of some constitutional matters, which was, of course, raised by some of you, the members. Even though others did say that it does not matter, it does not affect him, it had to do with, of course, the constitutional aspect in section 12 of subsection 1, which says that a media owner is not going to be a board member of the Gambia Press Union. Now, Mustafa set up his own online Malagan newspaper, if you may be aware of that. And even though some other members said he was not affected by the legislation, Mustafa reacted, and he reacted swiftly and appropriately. He resigned, closing that debate of whether he should continue being the vice president of the Gambia Press Union or he should vacate the office. And we thank him for doing that. Now, all that indicates is that the Gambia Press Union lives by the rule of law and respect to the legislations, respect to the Constitution. And as a result, we would like to thank Mustafa for that honorable decision. Now, the other member of the GPU that who left was a member of course, the ordinary member was Fatou. Because she has not been in the Gambia for quite a while now, she too decided to give up her post so that the work will continue be done. Because if she's away and there's work to be done, the best thing is to hand it over, because there are many other capable members who can do more than what we at the GPU board are doing. So she too resigned, and those are the two vacant posts that will be decided tomorrow. So for your information regarding the elections tomorrow. Now, coming back to today's event, of course, you are aware that there are documents that are supposed to be, worked on, because the GPU, of course, you all know, was established to promote freedom of expression and also to, ensure that there's professionalism in the media in the Gambia. Now, to achieve this, of course, we need to put in place rules and procedures that will help us to achieve our goal. Now, the GPU Code of Conduct, you're all aware, has been here since 1998, but it was revised because, of course, the media landscape has changed since that time. So the Code of Conduct is going to be, the revised one, of course, is going to be adopted today. I know the details. The Secretary General is going to give some more details about that later. Now, we're also going to, of course, review and adopt the collective bargaining agreement that you all are aware of, because the Gambia Press Union is very concerned about its members, especially the welfare. So, and we decided to engage media owners and media managers to ensure that we agree on terms and conditions that are going to be favorable for our members. So that document too is going to be reviewed and adopted today. And finally is the sexual harassment document that we would also be looking at today. So just to say that the Gambia Press Union is very much concerned about the welfare of its members. And sexual harassment, of course, we all know, going by the definition, is something that is happening every day in every aspect of life, including where the media and media personnel operates. So we feel that something needs to be done, and we need to be very clear in what needs to be done, and that is why we decided to ensure that this document is adopted so that our members will live and work safely and dignifiedly in their various institutions and in every part of the country. of course, there are laws in the Gambia that are here to deal with offenses, sexual offenses. We have the Sexual Offenses Act 2013, we all know, but then we feel that we need to do more, especially some specific things that would, of course, protect our members. So these are the 3 documents that we will be reviewing today and adopting. And as I mentioned earlier, tomorrow the election for the Vice President and another board member. So on behalf of the President of the Gambia Press Union and the other executive members, as well as on behalf of the Secretariat, we would like to thank you for taking your time to come and work with us through this. Thank you all.
Like Mustafa said, the meeting actually is necessitated by the vacant position that we have at the GPU. So it is supposed to be an extraordinary general meeting, but we also decided to take advantage of it to, as an industry, adopt some documents that are going to be very useful for the operations of not only the GPU, but the entire media fraternity. And just to add a bit more on to what Mustafa has said, the collective bargaining agreement actually is informed by a very comprehensive research that the GPU conducted into the working conditions of media practitioners in the Gambia. We conducted this research because we have been receiving a lot of complaints from media workers in particular about the terms under which they are working. And this research, of course, was sponsored by our games partners, but we conducted it in consultation with the National Union of Journalists in the UK, who provided us with a researcher who has experience in this kind of work. And the findings of the research, we all know, are not quite pleasant because it tells us that a lot of journalists are working without any social protection at all. A lot of journalists are also working without getting paid. There is also an issue of low payment. There is also an issue of delay in the payment of media workers. It has also uncovered issues of journalists working without some basic requirements as employment letters, even for freelance, without even freelance contract. Now, these are all things that are covered by the research, and these findings informed the development of the collective bargaining agreement. And the collective bargaining agreement in itself, it was developed in consultation with the International Federation of Journalists. And that's why we have engaged the services of Paului Tomasi, because Gambia is very lucky. The Africa Office for International Federation of Journalists is headed by a Gambian. So Paului, who not only is aware of our realities, but also has a lot of experience in this kind of work, is engaged to work on the collective bargaining agreement. Now, the collective bargaining agreement, we hope, will be adopted here today. What it does, essentially, is that it establishes minimum standards for the industry in terms of pay, in terms of recruitment, in terms of qualification, and a lot of other issues that we needed to address as an industry. The objective of collective bargaining framework anywhere else in the world are mainly 3, because when you have it in place, it improves the quality of journalism. This is rooted in the argument that when journalists when their welfare is properly taken care of, then they give you quality work. But also, what people don't talk about much with respect to collective bargaining is that it promotes stability in the industry, because where you have a good collective bargaining agreement, it encourages organizing at the workplaces, so that when journalists have complaints, they don't have to rush to the GPU, or they don't have to rush to Facebook to write about it, or they don't have to rush to Labor Department, or they don't even have to rush to courts. When they have issues with respect to their employment, they can easily utilize the mechanisms that are created within the media houses and address that. And if it is not possible, then the GPU can come in. So it ensures stability in the industry, and which is really very quite key. This, we are aware, is a little bit controversial because we need the buy-in of media employers in particular. I am not too sure we have so far built an industry-wide consensus on the provisions of the collective bargaining agreement, but I can assure you this is a discussion that will continue. Like I said earlier on in one of the meetings, that we are going to build a coalition of the willing, those that are willing and ready to improve the welfare of their staff and their freelance. We will work closely with them to make sure that happens, so that at least we establish some minimum standards in the profession. But besides that, we are also going to adopt the sexual harassment policy. This is also very important, and like the collective bargaining agreement, it was informed by some complaints, particularly from women that are working in the media, that the conditions under which they are working are not quite favorable. In most cases, they are either discriminated. If they are not discriminated, perhaps they are sexually harassed, particularly by their male superiors. This is really a concern, because whether you are a man or you are a woman, I think everyone should be accorded equal opportunity at workplace. So and that is why the policy is very important. If we put it in place, we hope that every media house and every journalist will internalize it and adhere to the principles, so that we can create a safe working environment for everyone, particularly women. And the last bit of it is the code of conduct for media ethics. Like we say, in every game there are rules. Media not being a game, in fact, it is a profession, so there should be rules that should guide our work. And this particular code of conduct that we are coming to work on today, we know came into being through a very consultative process in 2016 when it was launched. And the code actually, there is a provision that says that it should be reviewed every 2 years. Now it was reviewed after a little over 2 years, but we couldn't have it adopted since then. And this is a perfect opportunity for us to adopt the code of conduct. We reviewed the code in this very hall, and then at the level of the GPU, we thought that the code should have a name. And then we approached Uncle Charna, who is sitting with us right here, Uncle Charna Jallo, and offered him that the GPU wants the code of conduct for media practitioners in the Gambia to be named after him. And he accepted. Of course, we didn't give him any choice. But for those of you who do not know Uncle Charna has been very instrumental to the work of the GPU and contributed immensely to the development of journalism in the Gambia, not only in the Gambia, in Africa, and even in the world. Uncle Charna was an executive secretary administrator of the GPU. Later he became the Secretary General. That was under the Jawa's tenure, serving at the same time as the Secretary General of the GPU. And he served GPU quite well. But the main reason we wanted to name the code after him, besides his service at the GPU, is also because you wouldn't find any journalist in the Gambia who is as passionate about issues of ethics as Uncle Chorna. Anywhere he faces journalists or he appears before them, he talks about the need for them to adhere to the ethics of the profession, to a point that when Lamin Jade and his group were undergoing their diploma program, they were calling him Mr. Ethics. So that's why we thought it is very fitting that we name the code after him, and henceforth, if it is agreeable to this group, the code will be referred to as Uncle Chorna Charter of Ethics for Journalists in the Gambia. So I thank you all for your attention, really.
Clearly not on here, on the agenda. Apologies for that, but we cannot have a senior colleague in our midst and not give him the floor. That's an honor for us, the young ones. Mr. Jallo, if you have a couple words to share with us, please, the floor is yours.
Members of the High Table, dear colleagues, this is the fraternity of the profession. I am really honored for this code to be named after me. Yes, I have spent over 50 years, in fact 51 years, in the media. And like you people, I started like you people. From school, from the classroom, to the newsroom. In our days, like your days too, we had the problem of capacity gaps to deal with, training. But fortunately for some of us, we started somewhere where you people have not started. We started then with the Information and Broadcasting Services under the Ministry of Information Services. They had more resources, perhaps, than the private sector. For that reason, we had from the very beginning an inside course, training course, which was done at the level of the office, where senior officers are responsible for training the trainees as they come in. So for us, it was the question of 3 legs training, three-tier training. The local training, that is at the office level, sub-regional training, either in Lagos, Accra, or elsewhere. Then we had an international training, which took us to London and India, at the Institute of Mass Communication in India. So we were really privileged at our level to have a more professional career than probably the private sector. The private sector then, as now, were handicapped. They had constraints at the level of technology, at the level of technicians, at the level of finance, and at the level of administration. So all these things were faced. There were challenges facing the private sector. But as I said, the private sector keep on limping until today. The tragedy then, as now, was that it was a one-man operation. Most of the private enterprises were run by an individual, to such an extent that Even their obituaries were not published by their media houses. The moment they die, the paper dies. A tragic example is the case of Fatou Konate, News and Report. He was also the director at Information and Broadcasting Services. We served also in Dakar at the Pan-African News Agency desk, at the English desk. But what happened? I always tell people, my friends in the media, that we should not allow that to happen today. The challenge today, as yesterday, is different. Today we have a vibrant Gambia Press Union. We have a vibrant press. How many radio stations we have, FM radio stations? How many newspapers we have? Between them, I cannot see them floating News and Report and keep it going as a heritage, or at least as a remembrance to somebody who really spent almost all his life in the media, Fatou Konate. That said, let me come to the Gambia Press Union. As rightly said by Sekou, I was both the administrator and the Secretary General of the Gambia Press Union. Then, as now, the aspirations were the same. The challenges you face today were the same challenges we faced then, but at a different level. What happened then? What kept it going? The commitment and the dedication of few journalists, few media practitioners. Let me tell you, in all organizations, you have 4 bones. And I want you to be aware of these bones. The first bone is the jaw bones. They call it jaw bone. They just talk, but they do less. We have the knuckle bones. They knock down everything good in the organization, or they try to knock it down. And then we have the wishbones. I wish it was something like this. It is done so in England. In America, it's like this. Why cannot we have it? Wishful thinking. Because they never reckon with the realities on the ground. And they fail to realize also they are practitioners for the Gambia, not London or Washington. Their constituency is the Gambia. So unless they understand in depth what is in the Gambia and what is Gambia, they will fail to reckon with the realities. They keep on dreaming New York, Washington, London. They ape, most of the time, they ape the West. What happened in the West is echoed in our papers, in our radio station, in everything. I am not saying that we should not copy, but we should be able to adapt whatever we copy. We adapt it to our own needs. When we come to ethics, my bone, this is the bone of contention in almost all the media houses in West Africa. But I was privileged to be a part of a team that looked into ethics in general in West Africa. It was headed by Professor Kerr. And there's a book, I don't know, it's still it should be in the Gambia Press Union library. Yes, the case of ethics in the sub-region, in West Africa. Senegal, from Senegal right down to almost all these countries are highlighted in there. I will also advise you on ethics to read Ethics in the Quran. It was compiled and written jointly by the former Imam Ratib of Banjul, Imam Ablai Diop, and Mr. Van der Plas, who started community development in the Gambia. This will also anchor you to the point that ethics is the basis of justice. Justice and the law and regulation. Unfortunately for us, we borrow most of our laws from our conquerors. Yes, that's what we said. We in Africa, we are in that unfortunate situation of having our history and our religion handed down to us by our conquerors. By our conquerors. Whatever you look at them, whether they handed over us, whatever, Sharia, whatever. They were our conquerors. They conquered us first before they hand over these, or we adopted some of their religion and their ethics. So, as some people are saying in Wajah, and also in the media houses in East Africa, that we should research, we should do more research on the ethics in our own homes. That is, our ethics should be homegrown. It should be relevant to our needs. Our problem today we are facing in Africa is even our education is not relevant to the African needs. Go to the University of the Gambia. Somebody is doing arts. What has that got to do with our farmers in Kudang? Can it improve their lot? Today we have 70 universities in Nigeria. 70 universities. In the Gambia today we have 7 universities. All over the West Africa, you have so many institutions of higher learning. But let's look at the records. The record states, the UN says, West Africa is where it was in 1978. We are retrogressing. We are not progressing, despite all our institutions. That's why the work of the media is very important. It is time for you to go down to the roots. Let us stop confining our media houses to combo media. As they used to say, combo radio. Radio Gambia used to be called combo radio, because it was only around the combo that you hear it. I visited Koina 2 months ago, of course on a different mission, and they hardly see a newspaper. Some of them hardly even get a radio station. They hear radio from Senegal Oriental. So therefore the challenge today, I'm saying it today, so that you can start thinking out of this box where we find ourselves. We inherited it. We are still interested in the elites. We publish for the elites. We publish for the elites. I gave the challenge to my diploma class 2 years ago to do a research about Koina, Balingo, Panchang, Kuntawur. How many times it was published by the media in the Gambia. You think that you are doing extremely well. Certainly you are doing extremely well, but you are still supplying the elites. You are still publishing for the elites, by the elites, for the elites. Koina didn't hear you, cannot hear you. Koina is not hearing you. Balangar, Panchang, here, as if they are not part of the Gambia. Start thinking. In our days, because of the problem of communication, transportation, radio, even telephone. Today you have a mobile. You can talk to any village in the Gambia, to your own village in the Gambia. I cannot see some of these villages that are cut off, that are far away. They should not be reflected in our papers here. That's the challenge facing you, young men. Before you can beat your chest that you have done extremely well, I always tell even Demba Jao, how many times you publish about a story from your own village. That's the challenge for you people. It was a challenge to us in our times. In our time, before you even become a journalist, you have to be able to speak 2 languages. If you are a Fula, you must be able to speak Mandinka. If you are a Mandinka, you must be able to speak Fula or Wolof. That was the conditions, simply so that we can serve the country. You can go anywhere and be able to write a story without going through an interpreter. So let us measure our progress. Let us not be deceived by the technology we have. Sometimes I even tell them, it's the technology that is driving us. Certainly, it's the technology that is always driving civilization and progress. I agree. But we sometimes become even slave to the technology. We become victim to technology. the media has become the message. This is what we have today. So the challenge today to the Gambia President and to you young journalists, most of you come from the provinces. Most of you come from the provinces. We need to see Gambia reported in the press. We don't want to see Greater Banjul reported as it is now, as it was before. So for me, that's how I judge the progress of the press in the Gambia. I am part and parcel of the press. I will always be part of you. You are my family. I cannot get a bigger family, a better family than you people. I'm really proud of you. But I always measure you too. When you come to claim that we have done this, I always smile. How much further have you to go? Unless we're able to serve the whole Gambia, unless we're able to reflect what's happening in the whole Gambia. I'm not saying Greater Banjul and only, or Banjul. The problem today, just like the problem yesterday was, we promote the official agenda. Even in the private press. Look at any newspaper, the president first, the ministers, the permanent secretaries, downline. Look at any private paper. The story is the same. Therefore, we promote the official agenda. And we claim that we are independent. We claim that the Gambia Press Union or the press in the Gambia has progressed, has evolved. Yes, you have evolved. You have to evolve with society. It's natural, it's normal. But how far that progress? How far are we serving the public? The public is not only in Banjul. The public is not only the Greater Banjul. The public is from Banjul to Koina. So I appeal to you on behalf of the Gambia Press Union, on my own behalf, and also because I will always be part of you people. I see you all always as my family. Let us do more for our country. For our country. Not for our tribe, not for our party, but for our country first. Then the rest comes second. Thank you very much.
It sounds like a refresher, and I hope we're all taking note. I have Mr. Junkum Jobate from Suleiman Junkum Jobate from the Media Council of the Gambia.
Junkum Jobate. Jota.
As he mentioned, I am Junkun Jobate, the Executive Secretary of the Media Council. It's a pleasure to address you today in this auspicious occasion. It's not this Media Council show, but I cannot also speak without mentioning that today we are 2 years old. Exactly today, 23rd of December 2018, the Media Council was launched by the Gambia Press Union and other stakeholders to help the media become vibrant, but also to create an enabling environment in which the media would be trusted by the public. So we are sort of like a catalyst for vibrant and independent media in the Gambia. So the 2 years is today, and we've gone far. We have achieved some of our milestones. For example, in a few days, we will officially launch our website, which is ready. And the website would also contain a handle for complaint resolution and the form, the process of resolving complaints and the form in which you can fill to make a complaint against any media report or broadcast that one feels aggrieved about. So that is up and running. We have also dealt with many cases. As I said, this is not the show for the Media Council, but just to tell you that the council is up and running and is available for all of you to access and know what it is doing. We will have a formal occasion wherein we will basically tell you everything that we have been doing at the council. This is a congress in which you would look at certain documents which are very pertinent to the operations and the running of the GPU, but also pertinent to your interests as members of the Gambia Press Union. I hope and pray that we'll give our best. We will give our attention to the documents, and we'll be able to come up with strong positions on the document so that they can be passed and would also stand the test of time. I am happy to be part of this, and Media Council is happy to be part of this because the Media Council cannot work in the absence of you people. You are our constituents. So wherever your interest is, whenever you need us, we will be available to give our best to your endeavors. Without much ado, I declare the session open, if I have that power.
Yes.
Yes, so the session is open. Thank you very much.
We take 5 minutes, have a photo session outside, and then converge right after that. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, we come down to the Charter of Ethics for Journalists. It's an honor to see my name given to this charter. I am really proud of all of you, and I want to thank all of you also. Remember that you started just where I started. Today, the opportunities are more. That means you can get even farther than us. Some of the students I taught at the Gambia Press Union, some of the students I taught at the UNESCO Media Training Center, most of them are now professors. Some are teaching even at the UTG. So I'm always proud to see my students everywhere. Also, I hope with the coming of the collective bargaining, most of the journalists or those who chose to become a journalist will stay. Because it's always disconcerting on my part if I go to AfriCell and I see my students, my ex-students, and they were journalists, well-trained journalists. Okay, they are press officers, they are doing media work, but I would love them to remain in the media. I go to the banks, and then somebody will call me and then said, what do you need? Then I cannot place the face anymore, and the lady will tell me that, I was your student. But she is in the banking industry. I don't blame them, simply then because the banking industry and other institutions, they are paying better. I hope with this collective bargaining, the way will be paved so that at least for you people, you will be salaried. For a long time, the problem was you go to work. You go to work in any media house, anywhere. First, you have no letter of appointment. In your letter of appointment, this is what we expect. Not only your condition of work, but your salary scale. If you finished your training at the Gambia, at the Teachers Training College, you know straight away how much you are going to start with. You are going to start at grade 6. But if you are a journalist, after you have gone your training and all these things, you don't know where to start. But with this one, you know, the way forward is now clear. And I will always wish you luck, and I always wish you to stay steady on the course. It's not a paying proposition. Let me warn you at the very beginning. The media is not a paying proposition. You either love the work and you have a passion for it. Most of your predecessors also were poorly paid, and they were also all the time fighting for improvement, working conditions and so forth. It's not new, but at least today we are addressing it. That's the difference. So ladies and gentlemen, what I will do, I will ask the lady to be reading it chapter by chapter so that we can adopt it. Maybe she's got a very good radio voice. I don't have a radio voice, maybe, but she can do that. So over to you, madam.
Cherno-Jallow Charter of Ethics for Journalists, updated version, date 1st January 2020. Can everyone hear me? Am I audible enough? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Introduction. Press freedom is enshrined in the country's constitution. The supreme law of the land grants the press a privileged status and arrogates to it a duty to inform and to hold the government accountable to the governed. The journalists understand that. In doing so, we have a responsibility to the public. This code of conduct for media practitioners first came into effect in 2016. It is being named after a veteran journalist who has earned the nickname Ethics for his insistence on the ethical journalism. The code should henceforth be called Cherno-Jallow Charter of Ethics for Journalists. It is based on global standards of journalism, taking into account local context with regards to legal, economic, political, technological, and sociocultural realities. Journalism is facing new ethical issues. Journalistic practice is changing in a manner that challenges the foundations of media ethics. Technology has blurred the lines. The worlds of TV, print, radio, and internet are overlapping. Journalists are no longer a clearly defined group. Citizens are engaged in journalism with more enlightenment. Sociocultural and political narratives have changed. The code is updated to address new reality in journalism while strengthening good old beliefs. The revision process was led by a Code of Conduct Committee, a media stakeholder group comprising publicists, regulators, editors, academics, and civil society. Sharif Bojang Jr., Nana Gray Johnson, Haruna Drame, Jaina Banyan, Aisha Dabor, Demba Kande, Emil Toure, Madi Jabate, Lamin Jahate. This updated version contains specific rules on reporting migration, elections, and crime and courts. Online journalism and broadcast journalism are distinctly catered for. The previous version contains only 3 sections: general principles, children's reporting guidelines, and gender-based reporting guidelines. In essence, the code provides guidelines for the conduct of journalists, from information gathering to dissemination or transmission, in all types of news and information media, print, radio, TV, and online. The GPU accepts that may not cover every area of need or satisfactorily articulate issues. For us, the code is the last word on matters to which it refers.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last sentence.
Okay.
GPU accepts that this may not, that is the word that's omitted.
This may, okay.
This may not cover the code may not.
Oh, the code may not. The GPU accepts the code may not. Okay.
Introduction should be summary.
Instead of, rather than introduction, okay. Okay. We good on this? Okay, Yankuba. Okay. Sorry, can you repeat that? Mm-hmm. Okay, what would you suggest? On the part that says, for us, the code is the last word on matters to which it refers. Okay.
What clarification do you want? What does it mean?
Okay.
The supreme law. What does it mean? It's as simple as that. Yeah. It's the last resort. What kind of mechanism do you want to do? Don't be bullied. What kind of mechanism do you want? What does the sentence have? What it means? It means the code is the, on matters of ethics, wherever the code says do this, that's the final word. Simple as that. But you understand the player mode, brother. Oh my God.
Okay, do we proceed? Yeah? Okay. Part 1, General Principles. We, the journalists in the Gambia, hereby commit to 1. Public interest and social responsibility. 1A. Promote and protect public health and safety. 1B. Respect to the law. 1C. Shall uphold the public's right to fair, accurate, balanced information of issues and events of public interest. 1D. Shall not use his or her professional status for selfish motives. 1E. Will uphold the constitutional mandate of holding the government accountable to the governed. 1F. Be sensitive to the national mood and feeling in times of grief. 2. Media freedom and independence. 2A. Show solidarity with colleagues. 2B. Protect and promote the principles of media freedom, independence, and freedom of expression. 2C. Defend press freedom and contribute to the development of journalism. 2D. Not suppress news, except in the interest of public. 2E. Uphold the principles of editorial independence. 2F. Not act as auxiliary for police or security. 2G. Always act in public interest. 2H. Resist threats from and oppose corporate political attempts to influence our work. 2I. Not accept payments, gifts, favors, prayers in exchange for news coverage. 2J. Not pay subjects or sources that have vested interest in the story. 2K. Apply the same standards of fairness and balance when reporting news about our owners. 2L. Govern ourselves on and off the job in a manner to avoid conflict, damage to reputation. 2M. Never promise editorial favors in exchange for advertisement. We good? 3. Truth and accuracy. 3A. Be truthful and accurate the gathering and dissemination of news.
In the gathering. In his business.
Be truthful and accurate in. Okay. Okay. 3A. Be truthful and accurate in the gathering and dissemination of news. 3B. Not suppress, falsify, or distort information. 3C. Verify facts. 3D. Place accuracy above immediacy. 3E. Not misrepresent ourselves or deceive people we cover, except in overriding public interest. Number 4, rejoinders. 4A, correct errors with due prominence. 4B, publish an apology promptly and with due prominence. 4C, grant a right of reply upon request. 5, facts and opinions. 5A, uphold our entitlement to comment upon and criticize issues of public interest. 5B, ensure that comments are fairly and honestly made. 5C, ensure facts and opinions are clearly distinguishable. 5D, avoid mixing journalism, advertisement, public relations, and propaganda. 5E, recognize that expressing opinion publicly and on social media can erode public trust in us as fair and balanced. 6, fairness and honesty. 6A, treat everyone with decency and courtesy. 6B, use fair methods in obtaining information. 6C, present facts in an impartial, factual, and non-partisan manner. Facts in fact, okay, yeah, it's repetitive. 5D, give particular consideration in dealing with inexperienced interviewees. 6E, avoid subjecting subjects to any pressure or blackmail. 7, copyright and plagiarism. 7A, give credit where appropriate to information sourced from other platforms. 7B, uphold the intellectual property rights of others. 8, privacy. 8A, respect an individual's right to privacy and dignity. 8B, recognize that the public has a right to have facts that bear upon the ability or suitability of public figures to perform their duties. 8C, show tact and compassion in seeking information in situations of personal grief or shock. 8D, avoid use of hidden recording of audio, photo, and other materials. 8E, seek permission before recording telephone conversation. 8F, openly make recording in public places. 8G, conceal publication of relevant details of a person's private life and circumstances only where a person, 1, holds public office, 2, deals with public affairs, 3, follows a public career, 4, has sought or obtained publicity for his or her activities. 9, protection of sources. Withhold the identity. 9A, withhold the identity of confidential sources of information. 9B, interrogate the motive of confidential sources. 9C, ensure that confidentiality is agreed upon prior to revealing the information. 9D, exercise discretion where confidentiality request is made after the information is given. 10, embargo. 10A, respect embargoes. 11, inducement. 11A, reject bribery in all forms. 11B, reject all forms of inducements that influence or are likely to influence the performance of his or her professional duties. 11C, not receive transport refund for news coverage. 12, advertorial and payment for article. 12A, acknowledge any news or information that is paid for. 12B, ensure that paid for news and information does not cause harm to any individual or business interest. 13, minimize harm. 13A, avoid publication of material intended or is likely to harm or stir up hatred against individuals or groups. 13B, show compassion for those who may be negatively affected by news coverage. 13C, use heightened sensitivity when dealing with sources or subjects who are inexperienced or unable to give consent. 13D, recognize that legal access to information differs from an ethical justification to publish or broadcast. 14, sensationalism. 14A, ensure that news headlines are fully warranted by the contents of the articles they accompany. 14B, ensure that photographs and multimedia contents adequately reflect an event and not highlight an event out of context. 14C, avoid the use of indecent language and images. Part 2. Correct, yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Okay. Part 2, gender and sex. 15, recognize and respect the equality of both sexes. 16, respect and uphold every survivor's right to privacy. 17, avoid use of terms that refer to only one gender. 18, use gender-sensitive language. 19, avoid negative and inequitable portrayal of sex roles in news and in commercials. 20, not publish any material that promotes violence against any sex. 21, in news and current affairs, women and men should appear equitably. 22, protect and promote the best interests of the survivor. 23, expose all forms of gender-based violence. 24, ensure standards in terms of accuracy, sensitivity, responsibility, and fairness. 25, correct inaccuracies taking into account plight of survivors. 26, withhold the identity, distort the voice, and obscure the visual identity of a survivor of gender-based violence, except where the survivor wants to be identified. 27. Avoid publication of any information that could put survivors, their family members, or providers of assistance at further risk, even when identities are changed or obscured. 28. Not stigmatize or discriminate survivors when reporting on gender-based violence issues. 29. Avoid publication of material that promotes, sanctions, or glamorizes harmful traditional beliefs and practices. 30. Provide a secure and appropriate setting when conducting an interview with a survivor. She didn't have an S. 31. Avoid questions, attitudes, gestures, or comments that are insensitive to survivors and their cultural values. 32. Not coerce, bribe, manipulate, or threaten survivors into telling their stories. 33. Secure a consent form for gender-based violence survivors for all interviews. 34. Under no circumstance ridicule survivor of gender-based violence. 35. Protect and promote the best interest of the child. 36. Place the best interest of the child above any other consideration. 37. Give children an opportunity to express their views. 38. Ensure standard of excellence in terms of accuracy, sensitivity, responsibility, balance, and objectivity when reporting on issues relating to or involving children. 39. Expose violations of the rights and welfare of children. 40. Withhold the identity or obscure the visual identity or distort the voice of any child who is a survivor, perpetrator, or witness in any situation. 41. Avoid publication of any information or an image which might put a child, his or her siblings, or peers at risk, even when identities are changed or obscured. 42. Avoid publication of the identity of the perpetrator if that could lead to the identification of the survivor. 43. Avoid the publication of sensational or stereotypical information relating to children. 44. Ensure that the information provided by a child is verified and special care taken to ensure that any such verification does not put the child at risk. 45. Avoid the use of degrading and sexualized messages and images of the children. 46. Obtain informed consent of a parent or a legal guardian before taking and or using any information of the child. Where appropriate and necessary, such consent should be in writing and signed by the parent or the legal guardian. 47. Verify the credentials of any organization or person purporting to speak for or to represent the interests of a child. 48. Not pay or coerce a child or a parent or a legal guardian for providing information or material that involves a child. 49. Always make it clear if material is being published or broadcast as a result of sponsorship. 50. Not ask a child to fabricate information. Part 4. We good? Court and crimes. 51. Recognize that police appeals for information is published free of charge. 52. Uphold the ideals of fair hearing. 53. Avoid inappropriate use of legal jargons. 54. Where legal jargons must be used, simplify them for your readers or audience. 55. Have fair knowledge of and abide by the rules of court. 56. Seek permission from the court before any recording of audio, photo, or video of any proceedings. 57. Reject gifts or bribe or inducement or personal favors from anyone associated with a case. 58. Present facts of any court proceeding with fairness and accuracy. 59. Avoid interviews about the substance of a case before a court of law. 60. Avoid discussing the substance of a case in the media while the matter is still going on. 67. Avoid publication of any material that a court has placed in an embargo. 62. Recuse oneself where one is conflicted. 63. Avoid publication of any material that promotes, sanctions, or glamorizes crimes. 64. Respect and uphold presumption of innocence of accused and suspects. 65. Avoid guilt by association by ensuring that families and colleagues are not implicated in wrongdoing. 66. Avoid publication of any material that depicts explicit sexual conduct between adults and children. 67. In reporting suicides, avoid publication of any material with graphic depiction of methods used in suicides. Part 5, election. 68. Give voices to the public about matters relevant to election. 69. Investigate and expose electoral malpractices. 70. In times of referendum, give equal time and space to both sides. 71. Grant parties or candidates direct access programs on a fair and non-discriminatory basis. 72. Provide comprehensive and impartial coverage of elections and in local languages. 73. Where fees are applied, charge uniformly for all political parties and candidates. 74. Remain independent of the politicians and parties we cover. 75. Provide policy in undertaking election coverage. 76. Not take inducement, gifts, and bribery from politicians. 77. Not fund election violence or encourage hate speech and incitement. 78. Resist threats and not censor election programs in any way unless they are certain that this is necessary to prevent harm, such as an act of violence or tribal tension. 79. Where there is conflict of interest, whether by ownership or party affiliation, it should be known. 80. Acknowledge any financial support for coverage of electoral process. 81. Be transparent and fair in political advertisements. 80. Acknowledge any financial support for coverage of electoral process. Migration. 82. Recognize and promote right to migration. 83. Give voice to migrants in their diversity to tell their stories. 84. Raise awareness on the root causes of migration. 85. Place duty for the quality of labor of conditions or local services away from migrants towards those with the power to change it. 86. Avoid publication of materials that put blame on migrants for socioeconomic challenges of host communities. 87. Withhold the migration status of a person unless consent is granted for disclosure. 88. Obtain the informed consent of migrant before any photo, audio, or video recording. 89. Use irregular instead of illegal to refer to undocumented migrants. 90. Avoid labeling of migrants as deserving or undeserving. 91. Stay with the story. 92. Frame headlines in a responsible manner. 93. Consider giving equal prominence positive stories of migration. 94. Consider the human cost of political decision making. 95. Keep audiences and migrants informed of new research, legislative changes, policy shifts, and their implications on migrants. 96. Ensure that migrant interviewees are of full scope of story being written about them. 97. Outline with sensitivity the full context of reasons for migrations. 98. Make appropriate use of definitions and terminologies on migration. 99. Articulate to audience the rights migrants are under international, regional, and national laws. 100. Avoid spreading inaccurate, distorted information as regards asylum seekers, refugees, victims of trafficking, and migrants. 101. Take due care in publishing identifiable information about asylum seekers, refugees, victims of trafficking, and migrants. Online journalism. 102. Adhere to the general principles and other guidelines in this code. 103. Avoid using our platforms or any other online platform to publish or broadcast, share or promote hate speech, incitement, and/or defamation. 104. Link publication or broadcast to the social media public profile of the subject of our publication. 105. Use public domain images or videos, paying close attention to attribution requirements. 106. Seek permission before using content found online. 107. Check photo sharing sites that offer Creative Commons search and appropriate attribution. 108. Credit borrowed video, audio, photo contents. 109. Ensure that if we make a correction to an article that is already published, note the correction on the updated version. 110. Maintain open communication with our audience and encourage divergent views. 111. Fact-check your information and use documentation to support them. 112. Do not produce from online sources that do not cite the author's name. 113. Always check the author's credentials. 114. When information is linked to an organization, verify that the organization is reliable and credible. 115. Check for statistics and data to back up and/or refute sources' claims. 116. Using hyperlinks can be additional sourcing for your write-up. 117. Using multimedia reporting for an online story is encouraged when possible. 118. Seek parents' or legal guardians' consent to use pictures of minors online. 119. Do not reference the names of rape victims or minors in a story, or provide any indication that can help identify the state survivor or minor. 120. Moderate user-generated content. 121. In doing so, avoid undue censorship or feeding trolls by replying in professional manner to ensure adult in-the-room effect. 122. Adhere to the general principles and other guidelines in this code. 123. Recognize and strive to satisfy the varied taste of the public in programming. 124. Ensure that programming portrays the wide and diverse spectrum of Gambian life. 125. Ensure that programming caters to the needs of differently able persons, particularly in news and public interest programming. 126. Disclose the name of producer in every programming. 127. Make clear to the audience the name and nature of every program. 128. Avoid needless use of archival material. 129. Always double-check recorded program to ensure that the information is up to date. 130. Inform viewers and audiences in advance about content of programming that contains violence or sexualized scenes. 131. Depict violence or indecency in a manner that is relevant to story being told. 132. Evaluate depiction of violence or sexualized scenes in relation to the individual program, its intended audience and time of broadcast. 133. Avoid airing any program that promotes, sanctions, or glamorizes violence. 134. Ensure that programs that contains violence intended for adults are not aired before 9 p.m. and after 6 a.m. 135. Endure. Should it be ensure? Ensure good editorial judgment during live coverage so that coverage does not become a factor for additional violence, says the Kim. Ensure. Yeah, ensure. 136. Avoid intrusive audio recording or camera shots of grieving families. 137. Provide viewer advisory.
Wait, so now I think that's a repetition because this part informs viewers and audience in advance about content. That's viewer advice.
Okay, what 137 and 130. So which one do we go with? 137, okay. 138, be balanced in the use of men and women in voiceovers and in expert roles. 139, avoid negative and inequitable portrayal of sex roles in programming and advertisement. 140, avoid airing of smoking and alcohol drinking scenes, particularly in children's programming. It is the responsibility of every person engaged in journalism to read, comprehend, and comply with the principles enshrined in this code. Such persons, when in doubt, should be ready and willing to seek second opinion, especially from more experienced or knowledgeable practitioners. 2. The provisions of the code are not to be read in isolation of each other. 3. Every journalist should stand by high journalism standards, support colleagues who are willing to take a stand for ethical journalism, and censor or exercise those that are not willing to abide by our abiding principles. Censor. 4. Every news and information media house has a responsibility to provide procedures for knowledge of and compliance with this code at all levels, including independent content providers to whom media houses commission work from. 5. As journalists, we accept that the code will guide the Media Council of the Gambia in monitoring our compliance and reaching decisions on complaint from the public. We commit to adhere to the decisions of the Council. 6. The GPU hereby undertakes to print and distribute copies of the code. Every journalist will be entitled to a copy. Media training institutions will each get a pack. 7. The GPU recognizes that the code and its implementation is not the exclusive province of those who call themselves journalists. The public will have free access to the digital version of the code. Relevant government bodies and civil society will each get a pack. 8. The GPU and the MCG individually and jointly undertake to raise public awareness and improve the skills of journalists on ethics. 9. The GPU jointly with NEPAC, BAG, and MCG, and through an industry and public consultation process, will undertake review of the code every 5 years. Thank you so much. We will break for lunch. Yeah, lunch and prayer. It's 14:01. We'll be back here at 15:01. Join me in thanking Mr. Jallo for taking us through this session. Thank you so much, Mr. Jallo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In communication, connectivity is everything. We ensure that the links never sleep. Quantities and qualities, all in our data service, providing efficient, reliable voice and data service. We believe if you're not up to speed, then you're going backwards. Communications have to flow as fast as the speed of light. Whatever business you're in, having someone who understands your needs is critical. That is why we just don't offer you technology, we offer you solutions. Enjoy Gamcel's internet broadband anytime, anywhere. Your national operator, Gamcel, Yai Baram.
I get it. Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la sto.
Ha, code nyenji.
Okay. What's that? Nsila ID soto.
Sorry. I get it.
Bijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariaka.
Mbale.
Mo ki janna nun kunu bara tariaka.
Jannom yona forest de bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbali ya bere. Birim koyna fo kato.
Barisi kodo kino kato ni fo bolong blabe.
56 branches mola soto Gambia jam. Gambia kono ani Gambia bantala bankol. Nko kono ki ya bere.
kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta même na kodi topoto nin kodi maraw jannom number 1 ti nyonta andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale le dadi ma nin domorol dir fana beteata Gambia dawda yalo ngam fa kendol sotale je
wo moyo diat
apelenta
baraka ni lafta nyelen kendol e bina
yalo bukani la ko la baraka ba
yalo ndel ciosano lo
baraka
yara ñilla domoro ka diaten
boy jannon sikes restaurant
sa nakko be ninna dimbal nimbe domoro kala janno
domoro seneyata adiyata topotoro fanan kendema bije luntan during tamala abeka domoro ki janni adi manda wala de teka we bijele anim fanan ka fadi jang ikono e fa e ka fa minne ko pastry anim bakery iko fanan be kalele badde lomba conference lomba workshop lomba ye fo fendil lo dunia kono domoro betama ñillom international o toda number 1
amanke ba domola jandama
e sa domo jang is atariya
wo mu kubandi
sa nakko sa futandin
oto sa nakko be mu CK's restaurant
dafa na jannamu yat ni manje dorom bija
aban
CK's restaurant known for best quality food and customer satisfaction.